Hi lovelies, welcome back to another interesting tutorial. Today we're going to be making this beautiful dress with the flare detail on the side. Ever since I posted this dress on my birthday, I've had lots of requests asking for the sewing tutorial. So here we have it. For the style, I kind of added one or two to recreate my special design. So if you're here for the first time, this is Seth's Fashion where we do everything so DIY, pattern drafting and so on. If this is what you're interested in, please hit the subscribe button. And without wasting much of your time, let's head straight to drafting. The first thing I'm going to do here is to mark a straight line at the top which will serve as the shoulder line, and after I've got that, from that line we've just marked, we're going to mark down all our vertical measurements, which is the bust point, the under bust, the half length, the hip length, and as well as the total length of this dress, which is your preference. Wherever you want this dress to stop, you're going to mark that down on this pattern paper. For me, I went ahead to mark a bust point of 11 inches, under bust point of 14 inches, and a half length of 17 inches. Go ahead and draw lines connecting all your points just the way you see me do here. Notice that I've not marked out my hip length here. I'm going to be showing you a trick to get your hip length without taking measurements. So from my half length there, I'm just going to mark down 9 inches and that becomes the hip length. You can go ahead and also draw a line across that point like so. Now the next thing is to mark the length of this dress, and for me I went ahead to use 50 inches. It's not visible on this camera because the dress is quite long. I had to add a pattern paper underneath so that I can have a length of 50 inches. Okay, so let's just go ahead and label down all these lines so that we can know which is which when drafting. So the first line here is the shoulder line, the second one here is the bust point, the under bust, the half length, and this is the hip. Now this part right here is totally unnecessary, but it's going to be a guide to be able to get that off shoulder effect we have on the dress. On the shoulder line here, I'm going to be marking my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and my shoulder measurement is 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. Still on that shoulder line there, I'll be marking the neck width of 3 inches, and now I'm coming to the end of the shoulder where I just marked. I'll be dropping that point by 1 inch to create the shoulder slant. Next thing now, I'll connect these 2 points, that is the end of the neckline, to the 1 inch we have dropped here. The next thing now is to find the chest line, and you know the formula to get that is to divide your bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5 inches to that. So that is what I've marked down here, and I'm just ensuring that I have a straight line, thereby marking what I have on my shoulder at that point there and ruling down to meet the chest line. You can see the way I'm marking this out, that becomes the chest line. Okay, after that we need to draw out the armhole, and to get that I'll take the measurement of what I have here and divide into 2. At that middle point there, you take it in by ½ inch, and then I'm going to draw a curve from the end of the shoulder point passing through the ½ inch we took in there down to meet the chest line, just like this. The next thing now is to mark half of your bust band measurement, which some people also call the nipple to nipple point. So whatever yours is, go ahead and mark it on the bust point line, the under bust, and the half length, just like this, and then you connect all your points together to get a straight line. So we're basically just trying to create a dart at this point. And now to create a dart, you're going to come to this half length line and you're going to mark ½ inch on both sides of that dart line, and coming over to the bust point line, we're going to be dropping that point by 1 inch. Then you're going to connect all your points together like this, creating something that looks like a triangle. So guys, since we're making a dress, we'll be extending this dart line towards the hip line. Okay, so just basically mark your bust pan measurement along that hip area as well and extend your line downwards just like this. Your line should be 5 inches long, and once you have got that point, just connect the ½ inch you have on both sides of that line on the half length line and just meet up with the 5 inch points we have marked downwards towards the hip, just like this. Okay, once I'm through with it, I'm just going ahead to insert the horizontal measurements, and on the chest line here, you're going to divide your bust measurement by 4 and you're going to mark that down. On the half length line here, you're going to divide your waist measurement divided by 4, and you're going to also add the 1 inch we have taken there for that. Okay, and you mark that down. On the hip line, you divide your hip measurement by 4 and you mark that down as well. Then go ahead and connect all your points just like this. Now ensure that at this point you have also marked the length you want your dress to be. Okay, so I'm going ahead to mark mine. Like I said, it's going to be 50 inches. So after marking out the length, this is what I have. I'm just going to label this part L to indicate that this is the length. Okay, so the thing is, whatever measurement you have on your hip line, you're going to transfer it down to the hem of this dress. Okay, and then you draw a straight line from the hip down to the hem. Right here, I'm just ensuring that I have a straight line because my ruler is not so long, so I'm just making sure that everything comes out straight. So guys, now let's go ahead and work on the dropped flare part on the dress. And to do that, on the waistline here, which is written HL, I'm going to be dropping that point by 1 inch. Then I'm going to come over to the hip line here and I'm going to be marking upwards by 4 inch. This is to determine the slant at the side of the dress, and from the center front here, I'm going to be marking inwards by 3 inches, just around the point we have marked there. Note that this part depends on your preference. This is not a standard rule. This is my preference, okay? So you can do it as small and as wide as you want this to be. Go ahead and connect that part to the side of the dress. Now I'm coming over to the hem of the dress. From the center front, I'll be marking in 2 inches. I want it to have like a slant effect, you get? So after I've got that, the next thing I'll be connecting these 2 points together. I don't have a long ruler like I said, so I'm just basically using my tape before I go ahead to rule out. Alright, so this is what we have so far. Before I work on the bustier part of this dress, let's go ahead and draft the back as well so that we can have everything uniform when we're about to sew. So I'm going to introduce a fresh pattern paper that we'll use to draft the back. So the side of the paper here is going to serve as our center side, and remember that this is a dress and we need a zipper, so we're going to be inserting the zipper allowance, and I'm making use of 1.5 inch here before going ahead to rule that out. Okay, so next thing now, we'll also be drawing a straight line at the top of this pattern, which will serve as our shoulder line, and from that shoulder line we're going to be marking our vertical measurements. But for the back here, we're just going to be marking the bust, the half length, and the hip line. We're not going to be putting the underbust here because we do not have any underbust at the back. So go ahead and insert your measurements accordingly, just the way you did for the front. And after you've got that, go ahead and draw out lines across and also label accordingly. Also, don't forget your length of 50 inches. We need to make sure that this back piece matches with the front. So moving forward, we'll be working on the top part of this dress, and this line here, which we have as the shoulder, we're going to be inserting the shoulder measurements just the same like you did for the front, 7.5 inches for me. And from that shoulder point, we're going to be dropping that part by 1 inch for the shoulder slants, and after that I'm going to insert a neck width of 3 inches, and then you draw a slant line from the end of the neckline to the shoulder slants. And from that slant line, go ahead and mark your chest line, ensuring that all your lines are straight. Okay, go ahead and draw the armhole curve at this point, and after that we're going to be inserting the dart and ensuring that we're taking the measurement just after the zipper allowance. Okay, mark that on the bust point line, on the half length, and on the hip line as well, and then rule a straight line across just like this. For the dimensions of the dart, since we're going to be making use of the chest line for this back piece, go ahead and extend your chest line all the way so that you can understand clearly what I'm trying to do. Now from this chest line, we're going to mark down 1 inch, and that's where our dart is going to begin from. And for how long this dart is going to be, from the half length line, just go ahead and mark down 5 inches. And once you've got that, go over to the half length line and you're going to be marking ½ inch on both sides of the dart line. And that's basically it. Go ahead and connect all your points together, creating something that looks like a kite, just like this. And next thing now, we're going to be inserting all our horizontal measurements. Ensure that while inserting your measurements, you are taking it after the zipper allowance. I repeat, after the zipper allowance. Okay, so on the chest line here, I'm going to be marking my bust measurement divided by 4. I'm coming to the half length line, I'm going to be dividing my waist measurement by 4. And because we've added a dart to the waistline, I'm going to be adding 1 inch to my actual waist measurement before marking it down. Also on the hip line, go ahead and mark your hip measurement divided by 4. Now after you've got that, go ahead and connect all your points together just like this. Coming over to the hem of the dress, just like we did for the front, whatever you have on that hip measurement, you're going to transfer it to the hem of this dress, and then you draw a straight line from the hip all the way to the hem. The next thing now is to draw the side ruffle part of this dress, and we're going to be duplicating exactly what we did for the front piece. At the side of the waist here, you're going to drop it by 1 inch, and from this hip line you're going to go upwards by 4 inches. Now from the center back, you're going to come in by 3 inches just along that part we went up around the hip, and then you're going to draw a slant line from that point we have dropped from the waist all the way to meet the point we just got here. Now coming to the hem of the dress, from the center back you're going to come in by 2 inches, and then you're going to draw a straight line from that point you have there all the way to the hem of the dress. Coming over to the half length line, we're going to be creating the waist deepening, and I'll be marking 0.75, and then we're going to just slant it to the bust area and as well as towards the hip area. Just watch carefully the way I'm doing this and follow through. I've gone ahead to bring back the front piece so that we can work on the bustier part of this dress, and because we'll not be needing this part while drafting that, we're going to be cutting it out. To ensure that I don't have my patterns mixed up, I'm going to be indicating that this side right here is the center front while this is the side of the dress. I'll go ahead and place it aside and also cut out this part. And moving over to drafting the bustier, on this underbust line, this is the underbust. Irrespective of what you've taken on the dart line, you're going to come out by 1 inch just after the dart. And moving to the waistline, irrespective of what you have there as the dart, you're going to come out after the dart by ½ inch on both sides. Now go ahead and connect our 2 points together, creating the new dart line, and from those points there, just slant it towards the previous dart like this. Moving forward, we have to determine how deep we want the neckline to be. So from the shoulder point there, I'm going to come down by 7 inches. This depends on how low you want that part to be. So once you've got that, I want to create like a sweetheart neckline for this dress. So I'm going to be using my chest line as a guide. So I'll just basically elongate this chest line here, and then I'm going to curve it to meet that 7-inch point we have dropped from the shoulder, just like this. After drawing out the curve, it looks really low for me. I feel like it's going to show a lot of cleavage. So what I did is, from the shoulder slant there, I just measured down 5 inches, you can see, and I made a mark. I came back to the center front here and I took it up by ½ inch, and then I connected those 2 points together, creating a new neckline. I feel this is going to look better, of course. Now to create a dart on the neckline, I came over to the shoulder here and measured what I had and divided it into 2, and from the middle there I'll be connecting it down to meet the dart like this. To mark the dart on the neckline, I'll be marking 3/4 inch on both sides of that line we just drew there, and I'll be connecting those 2 points down to meet the bust point line like this. You can go ahead and curve this part. And here we have our new dart. But before we cut this out, we should ensure that whatever we have taken for the dart, we are replacing it to the measurement, so that we'll not come and have a piece that is smaller than our actual size. So coming over to the waistline here, since we've taken ½ inch on both sides of that dart, making it 1 inch, we're going to be replacing that on the waist measurement. Coming over to the underbust line, we have added 1 inch on both sides, making it 2 inches. So we're going to be replacing that on the bust measurement. Also measure the dart intake we've taken around the chest and add back accordingly. After that, go ahead and connect your new lines all the way down. Just avoid what you have on the underbust line. Go ahead and mark from the bust to the waist like this. To ensure that we don't have a neckline that is too small due to the darts we have taken around there, we are going to be replacing that dart measurement at the armhole. So remember that we took 3/4 inch on both sides, and by the time we add that, that makes it 1.5. So I'll be replacing that at the armhole and then curving it back to the chest line, just the way you have seen me do here, creating a new armhole. At this point, we're basically done drafting the bustier, so we're going to be cutting this out. We're going to be cutting out this top part as well because we will not be needing that. Okay, so just cut the dart accordingly, just the way we have drafted now. Also cut the new side as well as the new armhole. After cutting it out, this is the part we're going to be using for the dress. So since we've created a new neckline for the front, we have to create a new neckline for the back as well so that both of them can match when sewing. So just like I did for the front, from the slant line there, I came down by 5 inches. Remember, that's what we settled for. So I'm going to mark that at the back as well. And for the center back there, I decided to drop the chest line by 1 inch. And then I drew a slant line from that point we have at the armhole to the point we have at the center back. But then after looking at it, it looks really slanted for me. So I decided to maintain the slant at the chest line. So I basically just drew it from that 5 inches we dropped from the armhole to the chest line. Okay, so that is it for the neckline of this dress. So because this is a strapless dress, I like to create like a tightening along the neckline so that it can have a good fit around there. So I'm basically elongating my dart line to the neckline, and I'll be marking about 1/4 of an inch on both sides of that line. And then we're going to draw a slant line to meet up with the previous darts we had there. This whole part of the dart is going to be cut out, but before we go ahead and cut that out, we have to cut out this part that is going to be used for the flare effect. I'm labeling them down so that we don't get confused when we place them aside. This part here is the center back while this is the side back. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut everything out accordingly. Just watch carefully how I'm cutting this and follow through. We're also going to be cutting out this back waistline deepening, just like this. And this is what we have left for the back piece. Okay, so I'm just going to bring over the front piece as well and place it side by side so that you can see the difference and everything. We've gone ahead to bring back this part that we'll be using to create the flare effect, and here we have one for the front and one for the back. So the next thing now, I'm going to be creating lines that will be slashing through. The number of lines depends on how full you want these gathers to be or how full you want it to be at the waistline. For me, I'm going to be using 2 lines for the front and 2 lines for the back so that by the time I divide, I should have 3 pieces in total. There's actually no measurement to this, so once you've distributed your lines accordingly, go ahead and draw straight lines connecting all of them together. But before we cut out, we need to make an indication so that we know that we're placing our patterns right when we are placing on the fabric. So I'll be labeling this part 1, 2, 3. The line we have on the pattern there will also serve as an indication as well. Now go ahead and cut through your lines accordingly. Ensure that you're doing the same thing for the front and the back pattern. We're going to be spreading on the fabric, and to do that, I'll go ahead and bring the fabric I intend to cut it with. Right here is a crepe fabric. It's quite thick, and I'm going to be folding it just the way you usually fold to cut out a flare. Go ahead and arrange your fabric to lay down flat and nice, and once you're okay with what you have, go ahead and bring the pieces and place them on top of the fabric. You see the importance of why I asked to label it earlier. It's very easy to place it on my fabric now. Remember that line that was drawn across my pattern? I'm just going to ensure that it's straight on the fabric. So once the placement is okay for me, you can go ahead and cut out just like this. And since I cut it on fold, by the time I open up, this is what it looks like. So ensure that you are cutting 2 pieces because we need one for the left and one for the right side of our dress. I've gone ahead to also cut my remaining pieces on fabric and also added the necessary allowance. For the center front here, I added 1/2 inch from the neckline all around the dart, and at the hem here, I added 1 inch. Take note that the center front is cut on fold. For the side front, which I'll be cutting 2 pieces, I added 1/2 inch all around the top, the sides, and also the down part. But for the side here, which is our seam allowance, I added 2 inches. And coming over to the center back, which is this one, I basically just added 1/2 inch all around, and at the bottom, which is the hem, I added 1 inch. And note that you'll be cutting 2 pieces for this. I also did that to the side backs, added ½ inch at the top and all around it, and by the side, which is the same allowance, I added 2 inches. And I'll be cutting 2 pieces for this as well. So I'm just basically going to separate the patterns so that I can see how I'm going to be joining these pieces. So this is the center front. I'm just going to open it up and place it right here, and I'm going to bring over the side and place it beside it. And for the flare part, it's going to go underneath the side front. I'm going to be pleating it to fit up into that space and just join it all around. Let's go ahead and sew these pieces. So guys, to join our pieces together, I've gone ahead to bring back my pieces, and I'll be placing them just the way they're supposed to be, arranging them accordingly, ensuring that the right sides are facing up. And once I've done that, I'll then align them at the point where I'll be stitching. So I'll just place these points right sides facing each other, and I'll be sewing with ½ inch seam allowance starting from the waistline. Okay, I'm starting from down. Ensure that you're starting from the down part all the way to the bustier part of this dress. Do the same thing for the other sides, and note that whatever I am doing to the main fabric of this dress, I am doing the same thing to the lining piece. I won't be showing that here for the purpose of time, but ensure that you're sewing the lining pieces as well. Also, you're going to bring over the back pieces and arrange them accordingly, ensuring that the right sides are facing up. And then you're going to place them at the point where you're going to be stitching, and sew with ½ inch seam allowance from the waistline up to the top of the dress. Ensure that you're also doing the same thing for the lining piece of the back. So after joining the bustier part, this is what it looks like. At this point, if you want to add boning to your dress, you should go ahead to do so. But for me, I am not adding because the underwear I'm putting on has boning. So I'm just going to make the dress as it is. But if you want it more structured, go ahead and add boning or whatever to your dress. The next thing, now we're going to be joining the sides of this dress, both the front and the back. So I'm going to bring together both pieces and place them together. The above text is the method I use to get the accurate allowance so that the dress can fit as first fitting. You can see the way I'm taking my measurements accordingly, so you can go ahead and apply it to yours as well. Now, when it comes to the waist, you're still going to use the same method to derive the amount of allowance needed to sew at that point as well. Okay, so once you've got that, go ahead and join the front and the back pieces by the sides. Okay, and after doing that, you should have something that looks like this. You can see my seam allowance, right? So ensure that you have it in one piece, just the way mine looks. The next thing, now we're going to bring over the lining piece, and like I said earlier, you should make sure that you are sewing the lining piece alongside the main fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be placing this lining piece right sides facing the main fabric, right sides facing each other. Okay, so I'm going to be aligning them along the top part here, which is along the armhole and the chest area, and I'm going to be stitching that part. Ensure that you stitch nicely and also top stitch so that it lays down nicely, and then go ahead and give it a nice press. And after doing that, you should have something that looks like this. You can see the armhole. I went ahead to notch that part nicely before ironing. Okay, so now that we have our lining piece turned to the inside of the dress, the next thing now is to attach the flare detail on the dress. And to enable us to do that, we're going to be holding down together the lining piece and the main fabric along those points so that it can be easy to stitch the flare on it neatly. So I'm just basically going to demonstrate how I'm going to be attaching that. I'm going to do everything on my machine, but I'll demonstrate it here. So the first thing I'm going to do is to bring over the flare piece that we cut earlier, and we're going to fold it into two. Locate the middle and make a notch. So once we've made a notch, you see that line that we have there as our seam allowance on the side of the dress. We're going to be aligning that notch to that point, right sides facing each other. Note that you are doing this after you have secured both the lining and the main piece together. Okay, so after aligning the notch part and the side seams, you're going to gather it up to the point where the arc of that flare stops. You can see when we're cutting it, that part that is straight, that's where your gathers is going to stop. So once you gather that part to the dress, the remaining part you can just sew down straight without gathering. Okay, we're only gathering the top part of the flare. Okay, so that is basically it. After attaching that nicely, this is what it looks like. You can see that I only have the gather at the top, and I just sew this part down to the hem of the dress. It looks really beautiful at this point. Our dress is coming together already. I also went ahead to add a zipper to our zipper allowance. So guys, for the collar and off shoulder effect, I'll be using this fabric here. This is a satin fabric, which we also call Duchess. I've gone ahead to cut out the dimensions that I want for the sleeves to be, or the collar, whatever you decide to call it. For me, it is 4 inches wide, and the length, I made it so long to accommodate my shoulder, all around my shoulder. Okay, I also cut these long strips here, which I'll be using as rope for the neckline, and it is cut 1 inch by 30 inches long. So I'm just basically going to be cutting this into 2 because I'm dividing them for both the right and the left shoulder. Okay, now note that I also added hairstay interfacing on this piece to give the sleeve structure. I'm going to basically be creating a shape along the chest area. So coming to one side here, I'm going to be marking in 1.5 inch, and I'm just going to slant it down to the edge of this piece. Go ahead and cut that part out, and here we have that collar shape that we want, right? By the time we attach it to the dress, this rope part is just basically going to be up. I'm going to divide them into 2 shafts so that we can tie them to the neckline. It's going to look like this on the dress. So I will just demonstrate how to sew this before I take it to my machine to finish it up. To sew, I will open up this collar like this to the wrong side, and I'm going to be holding that part down with 1/2 inch. We're also going to be stitching the long part of this collar because we want everything to be neatly finished. We're just going to hand stitch it to the dress. This edge of the collar, which is straight, we're not going to be sewing that part. We're going to leave it open. That is what we're going to be turning it from the wrong side to the right side, and that part will go to the back. So we're basically going to be sewing it neatly to the back of the dress. So once you've done this for both colors, go ahead and give it a nice press, and also for the ropes, finish it up nicely and give it a nice press. This part right here, attaching it to the dress, we're basically going to be hand stitching that part so that we do not see any seams on the dress. We want everything to be finished nicely. To know how you're going to be placing the ropes on the dress, from the bustier line there, you're going to mark out 2 inches towards the armhole, and you're going to sew it down first. You're not going to be hand stitching that rope. You're going to sew down with your machine, and after sewing, you hand stitch the collar on top of it, covering the seam of the rope. Okay, so I'm basically just going to be placing it like this. That pointy part of the collar is going to be aligned to the middle of the dress, just like this, and I'm going to use my needle and thread to hold the top part only, the top part of the collar to the top part of the dress. And when I say the top part, it is the part that it is sewn. The one that is just folded is going to be facing the down part of the dress. Once you stitch to one side of the armhole, you are just going to wear it on your body. I did not show that on camera, but you're just going to put the dress on your body and basically ensure that the space there is enough for you to move your arms, and then you can wrap the collar all the way to the back and hand stitch that part as well, and basically fold the edge that is not hemmed inside, and then stitch everything nice and clean. And once you're done, this is what the end result of the dress looks like. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please leave a like, and if you have any questions or suggestions, please leave it in the comment section. And at this point, if you haven't subscribed, I am judging you. Please subscribe to my channel so that I can be encouraged to post more tutorials like this. Turn on notifications so you can get notified each time I post a tutorial. Thank you so much. See you in my next tutorial. Bye.